the most important supplement, the most effective supplement, the supplement that is going to make the biggest difference to your health, without any doubt whatsoever, 10 times more than all the other things you're sold. It's not very expensive either. In fact, it's very, very cheap. And just 10 grams a day, ready? Decreases all-cause mortality. That is, over a period of time, it decreases your risk, if you're a little bit older, of dying by 10%. Wow. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? A 23% reduction in hemorrhagic stroke. 9% reduction in all types of cardiovascular disease. That's strokes and heart attacks and hypertension and all those combined together. 9% reduction in diabetes type 2. But what's great about this is not only does it reduce the risk of getting it, it also enables people to reverse it. Reverse all these conditions by tackling it now. One daily supplement. But guess what? You can supplement 2 or 3 times too. So diabetes, 9%, 10% overall reduction in cancer. Nobody wants cancer. Nobody wants to have a heart attack or stroke. And yet, here is an opportunity for everybody to get on the wagon really simply. 31% of Barrett's esophagus and esophageal cancer. Barrett's esophagus is what's called a precancerous cancer cells and are very indicative of developing throat cancer. Hence, why in the people who consumed more of this compared to the people who consumed less of it, there was, you ready, a 51% reduction in throat cancer. That is huge. There is no pharmaceutical. All the pharmaceuticals combined would come to a mere fraction of what this does. A 44% reduction in gastric cancer. That's your stomach and cancer and just at the bottom of your esophagus type of cancers. 10% reduction in colorectal cancer. 12% pancreatic cancer. 12% reduction in ovarian cancer. Ladies, have I got you interested yet? But hold on, there's more. We've got a 62% reduction in premenopausal breast cancer. Wow. And if you're looking at the estrogen receptive breast cancer, it's an 85% reduction for premenopausal women. This is huge. There is nothing that can compare to it. And the evidence on this is overwhelming. Then we come down to all of these other conditions, and I could have made this list 10 times longer, but it increases your lifespan. I don't have the actual figures on that one. It improves mental health. Here we're talking about depression and anxiety. So then you've got an improvement in immune function, bone density, arthritis, all of your gut conditions from LPR, reflux, even periodontal disease, so tooth decay and so on, IBS, IBD, constipation, all of these are improved with a daily dose increase. An improvement in weight loss, so it helps you lose weight. Then, at the end of the spectrum, it also decreases your risk of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and multiple sclerosis. By now, you've probably worked out what it is. You're going, oh, that's not sexy, that's not exciting, I have a bit of that every day. Well, let me tell you something. Have more. The more you consume, the better it is. Every one of those things I just showed you, you dramatically reduce your risk of all forms of chronic illness, improve every aspect of your health and well-being. There is nothing that comes anywhere near that. And from a government perspective, it reduces the costs for the healthcare. We've got a health crisis. It's not because, you know, we've got all the need for more pharmaceuticals. It's because people aren't eating enough of this and they're not doing the right things like the activity, which I've posted on my other videos. I hope you've checked out my other videos. Subscribe below. I've got so many good videos you would absolutely love. Tick the little heart box beside, please. Subscribe to the videos, check them out because it will make a huge difference to your life. So what we've got is when they looked at the people who consume the least amount and the highest amount, they found that just 1 gram a day in Canada, 1 gram a day, reduced the cost of care for type 2 diabetes by $25 million. Wow, that's probably worthwhile just giving people a little sachet every single day. Yeah, that's 1 gram. That's a minuscule amount. Then they found out that if they do that, it also reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease care by 45 million. Now that's just two. Remember, it reduces your risk of Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia, improves mental health and all those other benefits thrown in. These are two that they just calculated. Now they did the same calculations in Australia in a big study, and they basically found out that if in Australia people increase their consumption of this miracle supplement by 10%, you ready? It would save on average about $800 million a year in cardiovascular care. Now, the estimates, by the way, were I just picked the middle range, but the estimates went up to something like 1.6 billion. So that's why I picked the middle range of about $800 million. Well, that's just 10% increase. And then they found that literally, if you increased it by 10%, there was an $850 million cost benefit saving for type 2 diabetes care. These are the biggest killers in our society, cancer included, and it reduces the risk of cancers and all of these other conditions out there. So you're probably wondering what it is. If you haven't worked it out, it's fiber. And more on the different types of fiber in just a moment. But fiber has so many benefits. It's not the physical part of the fiber. People go, it cleans like a broom going through the gut. Rubbish. It does not. Okay, it has all of these properties, but the biggest and most important property is that it actually feeds the microbiome and biodiversity. So you're probably saying, why can't I just take probiotics? Because if you take probiotics without the fibers, they're going to starve to death. You're sending them on a suicide mission. You've got to feed the good bacteria, the good microorganisms in your gut, and their major food component is fiber. So the more you feed them, the more they breed them. So the more you feed them, the more you breed them, the more you breed them, the more you get benefits. And so it increases the biodiversity, the range of them. And in particular, it increases ones like lactobacillus, bifidobacterium, and the new one on the block, Akkermansia. Now, it increases lots of what are called the commensal bacteria, the good bacteria. But what's really interesting, it decreases the nasty ones, the ones we call opportunistic bacteria in the gut. Things like E. coli, Salmonella, and Campylobacter. These are the ones that cause a lot of the gut problems and problems with health in general around the body, including inflammation. And so we're seeing an increase in the good ones and a decrease in the bad ones. So what does that interpret to? Well, first of all, the increased biodiversity means better nutrition. And I'll show you that in a moment. It's just fantastic in terms of how good it is. It's anti-inflammatory, it's oxidizing, and it's alkalizing. So if you've seen my other videos, you'll know that they are the three factors: inflammation, oxidation, acidosis, so the three factors involved in all chronic illness. And a lot of that comes from the gut. And if you increase your fiber content, how much you're going to say? Don't worry, by 10 grams, yes, but hold on, there's even more. So if you increase your content, you increase all of these benefits across the board. Fiber has so many benefits, almost impossible to list them all. But why it has these benefits is because when it gets into the gut, as I've already highlighted, it's fermented. And in the fermentation process, it's feeding all of the different microorganisms. And as a result, you're creating a greater biodiversity in your large intestine, which is what people talk about when they talk about the microbiome. And everyone knows about the benefits, of a healthy microbiome now. And fiber is the major food that feeds it. And if we simply just got this message out to people, we could change the health system. But let's go into why. The first one is when we ferment the fiber, it produces these short-chain fatty acids. And these short-chain fatty acids have wonderful actions and functions around the body. Butyrate, for example, is anti-cancer. It's anti-cardiovascular disease. It's anti-Alzheimer's. But also, it feeds the colon cells, the cells of the large intestine. And as a result, it looks after it and protects it. One of the major reasons we have a lot of large intestine gut issues, IBS, IBD, is because of the lack of fiber in our diet. Because it's always protecting it and allowing it to regenerate healthy and so on. That's butyrate, propionate, acetate, two other major short-chain fatty acids. The acetate you probably know as acetic acid. And you know the benefits of vinegar, which is acetic acid. the same benefits here, and it gets in, helps with the gut, and it helps with all of the functions around the body, so many functions. But then it also helps with nutrition. And the key part about the nutrition is it improves digestion and absorption of certain nutrients, in particular polyphenols. Now, polyphenols are those big molecules that are really hard to digest. We don't have the enzymes to break them down into their smaller components so that we can get the real benefit from them. And as a result, they would normally sit there if we didn't have our gut microbiome. But fiber feeds a microbiome, biodiversity. It's then able to break down these polyphenols. These polyphenols include the green tea extracts. These include the curcumin in turmeric, resveratrol in red wine and grapes, quercetin in apples and vinegar. All of those are digested, or at least fermented, by the microbiome biodiversity, which enables us to then absorb more. For example, with green tea, you might absorb 6% in your first cup of green tea. And as you consume more fiber and more green tea, it might get up to 70, 80, even 90% of it being fermented, making it digestible for us and being able to be absorbed into our body. Wow. So it can make a huge difference, more than 10 times. So if you're supplementing, fantastic. I'm a big fan of supplementing, but make sure your supplements are used properly in your body, because you need the fiber to generate the microbiome biodiversity to actually break down and use it much, much more effectively. Same with amino acids. And amino acids are our functioning little molecules around, functioning little bits of protein around the body that have so many benefits. But you get more digestion and availability of it if you've got the right microbiome to digest it, instead of having the nasty fermentation going on, I'll mention in a moment. You also end up with higher levels of vitamin K1 and K2. And this is kind of known as the cardiovascular vitamin because of its renowned benefits on the cardiovascular system, everything through from the arteries themselves to the blood vessels, and has many, many benefits in the cardiovascular system as well as other parts of the body. Also known as menaquinone and phytoquinone, the scientific names of them. Then you've got the benefit of the Bs, the B vitamins, and we all supplement with B vitamins, which is great, but if you want the real benefit of B vitamins, make sure you're having more fiber. Are you getting my message? Because fiber is a lot cheaper and has many other benefits. In fact, with the B vitamins, you can get up to your 25% increase in your suggested daily intake, or your recommended daily intake in some countries, are different terms they use, basically just by having a variety of different types of fibers that help in the breakdown and in the production of B vitamins. So when the fiber is broken down, it goes off onto these little chains, and different microorganisms are breaking it down, and as it breaks it down, it gives off the vitamins. It also releases extra minerals too that make it available for us to digest. And so you end up with an increase in folate, which is B9, B1, B2, B5, B6, B7, B12, which is cobalamin, a very well-known one, and as a result, an increase in all of them as a result. Now that's pretty cool, very effective, and a hell of a lot cheaper than trying to increase that supplementation, because if your gut's not digesting and absorbing it, then you're wasting your money. And this is the first place to start with making sure you do. So we've got those benefits there. But also, if you've got the right microbiome, healthy microbiome, it looks after your gut, which is so important about it, and you don't end up with one of those chronic IBS, IBD, inflammatory bowel disease or irritable bowel syndrome diseases. But what happens here is if you've got the right microbiome, biodiversity created by the right fiber, then you decrease the toxic protein fermentation. And fermentation of proteins is ugly. It smells a lot. You probably know of it from some really smelly fluffs that people have done along the way. And as a result of that, it decreases the sulfides, amines, ammonia, and some of the toxic phenols. See, there's some of the toxic byproducts that if you've got the right microbiome, you lower the level of them dramatically. And as a result, you lower the level of damage done there, not to mention the lowering the level of smells that might be available too. So it has a great, very positive effect in terms of lowering the toxicity in the gut. Hence why earlier highlighting the benefits on colorectal cancer and all the gut-related illnesses. Then we go up to Another group of benefits. The list goes on and on. I'm just giving you a quick summary here. And it helps with the production of neurotransmitters in the fermentation of the fibers in that little chain that I showed you or talked about earlier. It's producing all these neurotransmitters, and these neurotransmitters function in your nervous system to keep it functioning at its optimal level. And the first one obviously is melatonin. That's the sleep one. Your gut produces 400 times more melatonin than your pineal gland. So it's so important. And melatonin is one of the most potent antioxidants available to us, gets into our cells and really has some marvelous properties in there. Serotonin, which is a calming one. GABA, which is gamma aminobutyric acid. Dopamine, which is the motivational one. I recently did a video on sport, probiotics, fiber in the gut. Please check that one out. Subscribe below. You'll see it, and it talks about how the right gut microbiome increases motivation for athletes to perform better. So it's a win-win situation. Dopamine, acetylcholine, which gets all the transmissions through and around the body quicker and functioning more effectively. And that, of course, leads to that benefit of the gut-brain axis that so many people have heard about. And now you know some of the reasons or the ways that it works. And of course, with all of this, you end up with these potent anti-inflammatory effects from fiber, antioxidant effects from fiber, alkalizing effects from fiber, anti-cancer, anti-cardiovascular, anti-Alzheimer's, anti-depression, all of these benefits from just consuming fiber. There is no doubt about the benefits of fiber. It's overwhelming. But the fact that it enhances the benefits, all the other things you eat and take in as a supplement, means that you have to be supplementing. You have to be making sure you get enough fiber in your diet. So what's enough? Well, first of all, there are about 10 different terms for fiber. The critical thing though is to get a mix, okay? I'll come back to that. You've got soluble and insoluble fiber. That's pretty easy. Soluble fiber is when you mix it in with some water or orange juice or something, you can stir it around and it kind of mixes in pretty easily and it doesn't go gluggy. Insoluble fiber means it doesn't mix in water, and that's psyllium husks. So you put water in there, put a spoon in there, and the spoon will stand up. It goes really gluggy, so to speak. Then you've got your fermentable and non-fermentable. That just means the bacteria are able to ferment it or digest it, either way. And the critical one is prebiotic. Prebiotic means that it becomes a food for the right type of bacteria to do the good things like produce short-chain fatty acids and butyrate and give us all the benefits and the win-win situation. There's other terms like resistant starch. Again, you don't have to worry about it because it's really about just getting a variety of them. So what is the problem? Well, the average person in Western countries, Australia, New Zealand, the US, UK, Europe, consumes about 15 grams per day. That's an average, okay? So there are some people consuming virtually nothing, and there are some people consuming, like me, a lot more. And you've got 15 grams per day. And you look at that and you go, well, something's wrong with that, because the authorities say you're supposed to be consuming between 19 and 38 grams a day. Now that's 19 if you're a young, small person. This is an older male, bigger male, 38 grams, for example. But even with those, you ready? So we're not even meeting that. That's an average. That's what we should be consuming. So we should be consuming double that. And in reality, all of the studies, the original studies that got everyone interested in fiber back in the 50s and 60s, they actually found that the hunter-gatherers, which we still are body-wise, were consuming 50 or more grams a day. So my message is you add that extra 10 grams per day because you know of the benefits. I've already shown you those. But maybe over a period of time, you just keep looking at what's in your food and how to increase that. Check the labels on everything. Do a little bit of homework on it, because there is nothing more important as a supplement or as a food source than fiber. It's all very, very simple. So then it comes back to what do we need to do in terms of it? The critical thing here is, first of all, get a variety, and that's what you get from foods. There is no way of getting around food. Supplements are supplements to be supplemented with food, good foods, healthy foods. Don't eat junk food and have a supplement and think it's going to make a difference. It's really not. It's about having healthy foods and supplementing. And so you've got whole foods, you've got whole food extracts. That's where all they've done is basically taken out the water, or they've taken out the sugar, or they've taken out the ingredient you don't want, and it's a whole food extract. Fantastic, because you've still got the fiber content in that, similar to dried fruits and so on, which is great. Dried fruits are a marvelous food. Oh, it's got too much sugar. some of the die-hard say rubbish. It's the same amount of sugar as an apricot. It's just it doesn't have the water. So my message is dried fruit is a concentrated way of getting your nutrients and fiber. Absolutely fantastic. And all the research on blood sugar levels and diabetes shows it's the same as fruit. Positive, positive, positive. So my message is simple. With fibers, make sure you get a different size and have a different mix of fibers. The important thing is to make sure that the different size and mix means it interacts differently in your large intestine. I'll show you in a moment. And you also want to make sure you've got the nutrients in it, like polyphenols. I've talked about that frequently. Check out all my videos on this. It shows you polyphenols, like the stuff you get in turmeric and the stuff you get in green tea and the stuff you get in grapes and red wine, the resveratrol and all those things, plus some minerals, because they too become the additional foods for the gut microbiome. So you don't want to just feed them fiber, you want to feed them a complete food, so to speak, because that's what really gets them going. And then you want uniform fermentation. Now, uniform fermentation means that it goes all the way up and down. For example, here's my little diagram here. With this is your colon, this is your large intestine. It comes up here, across, and then down, and then out, of course. And uniform fermentation means it's going to ferment all the way around. Now, if you have psyllium husks kind of give a big burst here, and then a little bit there, and a little bit there, and a little bit, like that. So it's not getting all the way around. And unfortunately, a lot of the diseases that we suffer in the large intestine tend to be on the furthest side of the large intestine, going across, ascending, and the descending colon. So this part here. So we want to get some there. Then you've got things like inulin, which you would have heard about, which is the regular one. And inulin, a little bit like psyllium, gives a big burst right here in the beginning. And so you get this big burst of butyrate and short-chain fatty acids and all the goodies, but it's only getting to here. And the problem with that is both of these contribute to gas. Now, they're great to add in as a mixture, but probably not on their own. So you want something that's uniform, lowers gas, not something that makes you walk around going all the time. And that way you get equal distribution of your short-chain fatty acids. So your butyrate, which is the part that heals the gut, and then the other ones that go in and heal the body, around the body. So you want that. So where do you get that from? Food, and the other one is K-fiber. K-fiber is my absolute favorite. And you're probably saying, oh, he's probably going to make millions out of this. No, I'm not. Actually, I will declare, unlike many people, I will declare I have a vested interest. I'm a 0.01% shareholder. I loved it so much about 6 years ago, I bought some shares. Yeah, but I am such a small shareholder. If you bought 1 million packets, I'd probably earn a couple of dollars. Get the idea? I'm doing this because I'm passionate. I got involved in K-fiber because I was passionate about fiber. So coming back to that, 3 grams, and the beauty of 3 grams, it's the equivalent of a serve of fruit and veggies, because all it is sugar cane with the sugar removed and the water removed. So it's got everything else in there. I'll say some of them later. But what happens with K-fiber is the fermentation goes here, equal all the way down. So it gets to the furthest part, the descending colon, again, where you end up normally with an increase in your large intestinal cancers and rectal cancers and so on, rectal cancers down here. It's getting all the way down and doing the work all the way through, which is ideal. And to be frank, it's the only one that I know, after looking at all the different fibers, that does that in the whole. But it's also versatile. It produces the short-chain fatty acid butyrate, which has been shown to reduce the IBS and the IBD. That's the inflammatory bowel disease and the irritable bowel syndrome, the conditions out there that so many people now have. But it's got all its nutrients in it too. So it's got chromium. It's got a huge dose of chromium, which, by the way, is what helps balance sugar. Great, isn't it? You see, foods. This is a sugar cane without the sugar, and it's got the ingredients in it to help balance sugar. Nature's marvelous, isn't it? So you've got chromium, silicon, which is great for your bones and physical structure, and of course it's rich in antioxidants as well. So it's a win-win-win situation. Either way, whether you go K-fiber, whether you go psyllium, inulin, and all those other bits and pieces, what you're after though is getting a mix. Another mix that I will often go to, I'll go to a supermarket as well, and I'll get a mix of 3 or 4 of the different fibers. They have their own fiber mixes and things like that, and I'll add in some K-fiber in it to get that full thing, and I'll have that as a regular. So it's pretty simple thing to do, but you've got to make sure you add that fiber. Otherwise, you're down here in the average, and the average is sick, and the average has a sick colon. So please understand, fiber is the single best supplement. Share this video around. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, the like button, because we can get this message out there. Stay tuned for more interesting videos.